Take me back to Liberia, where the drums still play my song. Take me back to my homeland. It's the place where I belong.
LIB Future TV, giving voice to progressive Liberians, speaking about politics, entertainment, and local news. Entertainment and local news.
I'm Alexander B. Cummings, and I'm running for President of the Republic of Liberia.
It's not the again, though, yeah. Every day, every day, every day, every day, every day. I see my people working hard every day. And I pray, and I pray, and I pray, and I pray, and I pray that our leaders will bring us back a brighter day. Say, end the corruption, bring your children protection. A new direction, we need a new direction. Say, make a change, yeah, for the motherland, for you and me, yeah, for the motherland. Make a change, yeah, for the motherland, for you and me, yeah, for the motherland. Make a change, yeah, for the motherland, for you and me, yeah, for the motherland. Make a change, yeah, for the motherland, for you and me, yeah, for the motherland.
The best predictor of future performance and future behavior is past performance and past behavior. And as Liberians go to the poll on October 10th, I ask you to keep those two truths in mind and answer some of these hard questions about why we are where we are after 170. We have to do some things differently if we want a different country.
Make a change, yeah, for the motherland, for you and me, yeah, for the motherland. Make a change, yeah, for the motherland, for you and me, yeah, for the motherland. Make a change, yeah, for the motherland, for you and me, yeah, for the motherland. Make a change, yeah, for the motherland, for you and me, yeah, for the motherland.
Who will go below the surface, who will understand the economics of our country, who will focus on the how we can change our country. And that involves bringing all Liberians together. We call it hearts and minds. That involves finding the money. It will require funds, money to do the things we need to do. It will require a government of inclusion. It will require growing the private sector and leveraging technology. So my fellow Liberians, this is what we offer you. This is what I want you to think about.
Make a change, yeah, for the motherland, for you and me, yeah, for the motherland. Make a change, yeah, for the motherland, for you and me, yeah, for the motherland. Make a change, yeah, for the motherland, for you and me, yeah, for the motherland. Make a change, yeah, for the motherland, for you and me, yeah, for the motherland.
We have to do some things differently if we want a different country. I thank you very much.
drums still play my song. Take me back to my homeland. It's the place where I belong.
LIB Future TV, giving voice to progressive Liberians, speaking about politics, entertainment, and local news.
In the diaspora. I'm Alexander B. Cummings, and I'm running for president of the Republic of Liberia. Liberia just turned 170 years old, the oldest republic in Africa. And yet, we're one of the least developed countries on the continent, and indeed one of the least developed countries in the world. And I say to you, my fellow Liberians, after 170 years, we deserve a better Liberia. We need to ask ourselves some fundamental questions. Why are we where we are? Why, after 170 years, most Liberian homes don't have electricity? Most Liberian homes don't have running water. Most Liberians are unemployed. These are things we can change. These are things we should demand of ourselves and of our leaders. These are things I, as your president, will change for all of you. We, as Liberians, cannot keep doing the same things and expect different results. We cannot keep electing and selecting the same kinds of leaders with the same kinds of experiences and expect Liberia to change. We have to do many things differently, and that starts with selecting and electing new leaders who know how to create jobs, who know how to grow the economy, who will prioritize the Liberian people first before they prioritize themselves. And this is what I offer you. This is what the Cummings, Solonte, and ANC-led government will commit to you, the Liberian people. The other universal truth that I want to share with you, my fellow Liberians, is the best predictor of future performance and future behavior is past performance and past behavior. And again, I ask you to look at my record of job creation, of success, of managing large budgets without one penny going missing. All of these things you can look at and compare to the other candidates. And again, you will see that my past performance and past behavior is a good predictor, a good indicator that what I commit to, we will deliver. And I ask you to make that comparison as you go to the polls on October 10th. There are 5 priorities we have, and we call that the what's. And then there are 5 things we call the how we'll do it. And those priorities are as follows. Our first priority is infrastructure. Simply put, it's electricity, it's roads, it's water, and it's internet and cell phone connectivity across Liberia. We have to invest in infrastructure. That is the top priority. That's the basis on which we can and will do everything else. The second priority for us is job creation. There are too many unemployed, underemployed, and unemployable Liberians. The unemployment rate is over 85%. And therefore, job creation is our next priority, creating jobs for the Liberian people. So after job creation, our next priority is agriculture. We are a country, after 170 years, that do not fear ourselves. Last year alone, we imported over 160 million United States dollars in rice import, and total food imports was over $280 million. These are things we can do for ourselves. We should be producing rice to feed ourselves. And my commitment is that by the end of my first term in office, we will be self-sufficient in rice production. And within education, we are focused on vocational training, teachers training, and adult education. But we have to educate our young people because, again, that's how we can help them create jobs. That's how we can train farmers. And so these things are all linked together. And our final priority in terms of the what's is health. Because you can have good infrastructure, you can have a good job, you can feed yourself, you can have great education, but if you don't have your health, it doesn't matter. And so health is our fifth priority. And there we're focused on primary health care and preventive health care. So those are the what's we'll do for our people, for the Liberian people. How are we going to do these things? The first how is we want to engage Liberians differently in the transformation of our country. We call this hearts and minds. How do we get all Liberians to participate in the changes that are required? We're going to use arts and music and culture and reconciliation and religion, all of these things. We will be deliberate in using these things to engage us as a people in this transformation process. And so we're doing some work on how we can make those things happen. The next how is that we're going to find the money. We have to find the resources, the money, to do all of the what's I mentioned earlier. And the way we'll find the money is first, we'll go after waste in government. You know, we spend a lot of money on things that we don't need, or we pay too much for things that we do need. So for example, I believe the vehicles we buy for our government officials, we spend too much money on that. We should reduce the number of vehicles, and we should buy less expensive vehicles for our government officials. We need to reduce how much they make so we can pay teachers and civil servants and police officers and the military officers and healthcare workers, people who actually do the work. We need to pay them more money and reduce the gap between those at the top and those who actually do the work. The other way we'll find the money is going after these things called corruption. You know, corruption has been the bane of our country, is the primary reason why we are as underdeveloped as we are today. And we will aggressively go after corruption. The first thing we'll do is we will appoint a corruption czar, a minister in charge of corruption in the presidency that will coordinate all of the agencies that are meant to find corrupt officials. Secondly thing we'll do is we'll make sure we are giving the resources, the money, the right people, the right logistics to the anti-corruption agencies, the LACC, Liberia Anti-Corruption Commission, the General Accounting Office, the Public Procurement and Concessions Commission. We will make sure they got the right resources to go after corrupt officials. After that, when we find people who are corrupt, we will prosecute them, we will put them in jail, and we'll seize their assets. It will not be good enough for you just to resign. Okay. So those are the things we will do to really go after corruption. I have committed that I will not take a salary. The salary that is paid the president, I will allocate it towards helping to fight corruption. That's how important I think it is to us. And then the other way we'll find the money is we'll make sure we're getting full value, the full monies we're due from our natural resources. We'll look to exploit other natural resources so we can get the funds required to fund healthcare, to fund infrastructure, to create jobs, et cetera, et cetera. So finding the money is the second how. The next how is we want to create a government of inclusion. We want all sections of our country to be represented in the government. We want opposition political parties to be in government because we believe that having a government inclusion will help all of us make the right decisions. It will make sure that we're spreading the resources of our country across the entire country. And then the last two hows, one is growing the private sector. We will focus on growing the private sector so Liberians can primarily benefit from that growth. No longer should Liberian business people be spectators to our economy. And we want to actively support Liberianization and encourage and provide credit and other facilities to Liberian businesses so they can participate And last but not least, we will use technology. We'll leverage technology to help us achieve our goals. So those are the what's in the house. But let me end by leaving you again with these two universal truths. One is we cannot keep doing the same things, my people, and expect different results. We cannot keep electing the same people with the same experiences and expect Liberia to change. We need to elect and select different people to lead us, to serve us, to help us manage and run our country. And the other universal truth is the best predictor of future performance and future behavior is past performance and past behavior. And on those two counts, I believe I stand head and shoulders above the other candidates aspiring to lead our country. So I ask you on October 10th to vote Alexander Cummings, Jeremiah Solante, and all the legislative candidates of the Alternative National Congress. Together, we will change Liberia for the benefit of all Liberians. We will transform our country. We will give us a new start, a fresh start, so that all of us can benefit from this country we love. I thank you. God bless you. God bless the Republic of Liberia.
LIB, stand up. Take me back to Liberia, where the drums still play my song. Take me back to my homeland. It's the place where I belong.
LIB Future TV, giving voice to progressive Liberians, speaking about politics, entertainment, and local news.
Come on, let them say ya. Come on, let them say ya. That in my business, you catching fever. Getting serious like empty river. Ain't no stopping by the river. And as we coming, we sweeping, we cutting, we moving all the way. Yeah. We coming, yeah. As we coming, we sweeping, we coming. And then when we meet up, speak. We when the year is been checking you again, guys. Say to me, say for me, I want to song. There's a big woman. I said. Everybody's talking about a maker and it's a man to me. Everybody's talking about a maker and it's a man to me. The year is been checking you again. From the shadow of the river to the pit of the and we coming from the episode to the shores of the shepherd. Young guy, you're the from my way, my put you to the peak, I want to kiss it. Sit for. Come here, we come in. We come I said. Everybody's talking about a make a Alexander come back to everybody's talking about a make a Alexander. Oh yeah. When the year is me checking you again, Kazukoa. I'm doing it for coming, nobody should hold me. Everybody's celebrating, I'm dancing to my right and I'm dancing to my left. Sit, come in. From Maserado to Nakibi, Pasa to River Cess, yeah, all the way to Bone County. From the County to Cranchita, River Keys, I know Maryland and Grand Crew County. Love I came up on me and Bapo County. We come in. Where's our big woman? Yeah, I'm so down. We come in. Where's our big woman? Say, come in. Say, for me, I want to song. Where's our big woman?
You travel a lot for work, but that doesn't mean you should be a part-time travel agent.
Take me back to Liberia, where the drums still play my song. Take me back to my homeland. It's the place where I belong.
LIB Future TV, giving voice to progressive Liberians, speaking about politics, entertainment, and local news.
It's about leadership in Africa. And until Africans demand the sort of leadership they need to fix their problems, we will have the continuous issues you suggest.
Long before becoming the head of a major political party, Alexander B. Cummings was making history in the corporate world as the first Liberian to run a major section of Coca-Cola, a Fortune 500 company.
First thing I can tell you about him is he has a big heart. He loves his Liberian people, and he always loved Liberian people and his country, always. He's a giving person. He likes to give people the benefit of the doubt. He'll trust you first until you prove otherwise.
I ran the Coke business in Nigeria. I was business unit president for about half of Africa. And then for almost 7 years, I ran an entire Africa group for the Coca-Cola company.
Born in 1956 at the Old Government Hospital in Monrovia, Alex, the third of 4 children and the only son, he would attend elementary school at Demonstration and high school at the College of West Africa.
Alex and myself, we became friends in 1971. That's about 45 years ago. We met in the 10th grade and we just became fast friends.
I love music. If people want to know, I actually like to dance. It surprises people that I do. And actually, I think I'm a pretty good dancer, by the way.
He's a good dancer. Yes. But so am I.
Don't let nobody stop you from having yourself a ball.
I remember there was a song that was called Mr. Big Stuff. Who do you think you are, Mr. Big Stuff? And that was a song that he used to like a lot.
Alex probably started to dance, and though this even today, when he likes a record, he sings it. You know, when he's singing it, he's dancing it. You can hear him humming the songs. You know.
And one characteristic of Alex was he could snap his finger. I mean, he would snap his finger while he's dancing. You could hear it all over the place.
I have a great sense of humor. Again, that's not always obvious, but I like to have fun.
When he lets his hair down, he loves jokes. He's a dry sense of humor, but it's funny to him, which is okay. But yeah, I mean, he's just like everybody else. He loves to dance. He loves being around people and entertaining and letting his hair down. So, yeah.
As a child growing up in Liberia, I had a few memorable moments. I always enjoyed playing football. Again, as I said, it's not something I played very well, but I played with a lot of enthusiasm, and so I'm still a big fan of football.
By 1980, Alex Cummings returned to the United States to continue his education. He attended Clark Atlanta University, where he earned a degree in business. There, Alex Cummings also met his wife, Teresa.
I was coming from class at Atlanta University one day, and this young lady um, yelled across Spelman's campus as I'm walking on and said, Teresa, come and meet your future husband. And I was like, who is this guy and why is she embarrassing me on campus like this? But I went up and I met him and I said, how do you do? He had just come over from Liberia to pursue his master's in business.
It was always the plan to go home after undergrad school, work for a few years, get some real life practical experience, and then come back to graduate school. So that was not because of the cool necessarily, or because I wanted to go back and get an advanced degree.
Um, and so we started dating, and by 1982, we got married.
I met Teresa after they had gotten married. After they had gotten married, he brought her to New York, and we all went out to eat in the village, in Greenwich Village.
After graduate school, Alex accepted a role at the Pillsbury Company. There he quickly moved up the corporate ladder.
We moved to Minneapolis. There, at the time, I was pregnant with my daughter, Ayo, the eldest. She was born in Minneapolis. Um, he worked for the Pillsbury Company at the time. We were there for 2 years. Then we moved to Allentown, Pennsylvania, where I was again then pregnant with my son, Boy Kai. Then we moved to New Jersey, a little small town called Hopatcong, New Jersey. At the time, he was working for Haagen Dazs. And then he moved back with the Pillsbury Company back to Minneapolis 3 years later. We were in Minneapolis then from 1987 to 1997. 1997, he received a call from a headhunter who was interested in recruiting him for the Coca-Cola Company.
And then I joined the Coca-Cola Company, where I lived and worked in Nigeria, ran our business in Nigeria very successfully. Moved to Nairobi, Kenya, where I ran half of Africa for Coca-Cola from Kenya. Did that very successfully. And then I moved to Morocco, running a different half of Africa, and then ultimately to London, where I ran all of Africa for the Coca-Cola Company from London for almost 6 years. Moved our group offices to Johannesburg, and so I lived in South Africa running the group from there. And then my last job at Coca-Cola had global responsibility for most of the company, most of the functions.
From class president to Coca-Cola CAO, head of Africa, Alex Cummings has now turned his attention to a difficult task, politics.
And I asked him, I said, why are you doing this? He said, Robert, everything that I am today is Liberia that made me to be what I am today. So I have this deep desire to give back. So then I asked him, well, why necessarily looking at the top position? He said, because that is the most impactful way that you can make a change. He wants to change the paradigm, do a paradigm shift in Liberia thinking.
Is seeking the presidency the only way to change the lives of Liberians? No. Is it the most impactful way to do it? Yes. If you want to impact all 4.2 million Liberians, that office is the best way to do it.
Alex will create the atmosphere, knowing Alex, and knowing the good intention Alex has, knowing the person Alex is. He will create the atmosphere that will provide opportunities for that market woman, for her to be able to do her business, to provide micro loans for her if she needs it, to be able to expand her business, and for her to be able to support her family.
He said to me, he said, Robert, I'm doing this because I think I can make a difference for Liberia. If I'm not successful, I'm just going to I'm just going to roll up my sleeves and be of help to our country. So it is not like this is an ambition that if he doesn't get, he's going to stop loving his country.
He does a lot behind the scenes. Doesn't have to necessarily um, get accolades for it. He doesn't mind that, just so it gets done. So that's the kind of person he is.
I'm optimistic about the Liberian people. I believe in the Liberian people. I believe we are smart people. I believe we're industrious people. I believe we're hardworking people. And I don't accept any of the contrary views of who we are and what we can be. Are there things we can do better and different as a people? Of course there are. Are there things I would like to see us do differently as a people? Yes. But again, when you focus on the positive, when you set high expectations for people, they tend to live up to those expectations. And we have many examples of Liberians from the past who did very well and were first in many things. And we have Liberians today who are first and who are doing many good things that will move our country. So because I believe in Liberians, I believe our country has a positive and a positive future, and I'm optimistic about that future.
Alex just want to make a contribution. He just want to make sure. Yes, a man who has learned a lot of best practices. Yes, a man who has run multi-billion-dollar corporation, and be at the pinnacle, at the top of this organization, Coca-Cola.
He likes to challenge you, to push you, because he can see potential in people that they can't see in themselves, and he can nurture and push people towards their potential.
He just wants to use the best practices to transform the Liberian society, bring another perspective to the way we've always done things.
He is genuine. He is level-headed. He is not someone who is overwhelmed by money, by success. He is just a modest, easygoing, good guy. And I hope Liberians will get a chance to listen to this good guy talk about what he wants to do for our country.
LIB, stand up! Take me back to Liberia, where the drums still play my song. Take me back to my homeland. It's the place where I belong.
LIB Future TV, giving voice to progressive Liberians, speaking about politics, entertainment, and local news.
I said, wave your flag, ANC partisan, wave your flag, LSM people, we wave your flag, Prince or APC, wave your flag, Papa, we will win, I say we will win, you can do it for us, for us, for us. You will go there for us, for us, for us. You can do it for us, for us, for us. You will go there for us, for us, for us. You can do it, yeah. You will do it, oh. You can do it, yeah. You can go there for us. That's the reason we are. The masses crying, but then are you we want? The development of women and say that you we want, no, that you we want. So mama, papa, brother, sister, auntie, uncle, you can do it. Mama, papa, brother, sister, auntie, uncle, you can do it. You can do it. You can do it. Kwaku education, you were good for us. Kwaku electricity, you were good for us. Kwaku hospital, you were good for us. For youth empowerment, you were good for us. Kwaku market road, you were good for us. Kwaku electricity, you were good for us. ANC partisan, wake up player, wake up player. LSMP, come wake up player, wake up player. Friends for APC, wake up player, wake up player. Papa, we will win, oh, we will win, oh. I say we will win, oh, we will win, oh. You can do it for us, for us, for us. You will go there for us, for us, for us. You can do it for us, for us, for us. You will go there for us, for us, for us. You can do it, yeah. You will do it, oh. You can do it, yeah. Opposition came my way, I'm bettering. AC coming, you became my way, I'm bettering. Palestine coming, you became my way, I'm bettering. AC coming. They not pray, they not pray, they not pray, they not pray. Shine your eyes, open your eyes, shine your eyes, open your eyes. Who you voting for? ANC, and it's time for me. Who you voting for? ANC, and it's time for me. Who you voting for? ANC, and it's time for me. In the race, Papa, in the race, in the race, ANC, in the race. Yeah, yo, yeah, me happy then. Yeah, yo, yeah, me happy then. Yeah, yo, yeah, me happy then. Za, A, B, C, ANC, A, B, C, ANC. Ay, 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 everybody, Nation, let go. A, B, C, everybody. Ay, ay, ay. Take the long. So ANC partisan, wake up player, wake up player. LSMP, come wake up player, wake up player. Friends for APC, wake up player, wake up player. Papa, we will win, oh, we will win, oh. I say we will win, oh, we will win, oh. You can do it for us, for us, for us. You will go there for us, for us, for us. You can do it for us, for us, for us. You will go there for us, for us, for us. You can do it, yeah. You will do it, oh. You can do it, yeah.
LIB, stand up. Take me back to Liberia, where the drums still play my song. Take me back to my homeland. It's the place where I belong.
LIB Future TV, giving voice to progressive Liberians, speaking about politics, entertainment, and local news.
Well, Alex, it's been a while since I've seen you. Normally it was at Essence Music Festival.
Absolutely, it's been a while. Welcome to Liberia.
Glad to be here, glad to be here. So let's start with that. How long were you at Coca-Cola?
Almost 20 years. I retired in March 2016, 19 and a half years, so almost 20 years. I started at Coca-Cola Nigeria. So I ran Nigeria. I ran all of Africa for Coca-Cola. And then for the last 8 years, Roland, I was Executive Vice President and Chief Administrative Officer. So I had global responsibilities for strategy, human resources, legal, all of the technical functions. So R&D, procurement, manufacturing, even the secret formula, the foundation, Ingrid Sanders Jones worked for me. So I did that until 2016 and retired in March 2016.
Reason I want to start with that, because when we talk about Liberia, we talk about other countries as well. When folks talk about the need for investment, it's what corporations can do in terms of being able to help economies build and grow. You've got Firestone here. They've been here since, 1925, 1926. And one of the things that was interesting to me when I was having conversations with people this week is that they've never actually had a manufacturing facility. Rubber is taken out, going to the United States, but never had anything here. From what is needed from a corporate perspective in order to build economies like Liberia's that go beyond the natural resources being stripped and taken out, but literally providing jobs and skills for folks who live here.
So Roland, the challenge we've had in Liberia over the history of our country is that we have never focused on building a vibrant private sector. For whatever reasons, people in government have been threatened, I think, either consciously or subconsciously, about having a strong private sector. I think they've always felt it will be a threat to their political control. And so we have not created an environment for a vibrant private sector with manufacturing. We have not demanded of people who come to Liberia to extract our resources that they do some local manufacturing, some value addition. So it's been a combination of not creating the right environment, the rule of law, the sanctity of agreements, the judiciary has to be independent. You have to provide the right incentives. You have to develop and train your people. And you have to be comfortable that you will create strong, powerful, rich business people, right? And then you have to be demanding of the concessionaires. We have to change the model with which people extract our resources. And so we haven't done that. We still are not doing that. And therefore, our resources just leave Liberia and our country is not developed. I keep reminding us, Roland, that we are a rich country and a poor people.
Imagine being able to build anything just by thinking about it. Meet Base 44, a complete AI creation platform made for anyone with an idea and a drive to bring it to life. Describe what you want and watch it take shape. You can plan.
That is a huge contradiction. We have gold, we have diamonds, we have rubber, we have arable land. We got 350 kilometers of seafront, of beaches, and yet we're among the poorest countries in the world. So it's a function of leadership. I keep reminding us Liberians, we can't keep doing the same things and expect different results. The government has been organized this way for the beginning of the country. We keep electing people with the same kinds of experiences. We're not going to get different results. So long answer to the question, we just have not created an environment for a vibrant private sector, and we have not been demanding enough of the concessionaires in terms of what they need to do to add value to our resources before it's taken out of the country.
Well, that was one of the things that the conversation I had with a CEO here, she talked about the lack of skilled workers. She talked about the need for training for folks. If you're in construction, people who've been adequately trained to be carpenters and electricians and drywallers and things along those lines. You also have an extremely young population here. Many folks would be shocked when they hear, the median age of this country under 20 years old.
19, yes. So it's a young country, and and you do need to train the workforce. So what that means is,
so they got to be trained for something, though.
Absolutely. but what that means, though, is you have to start with low-skill manufacturing. So you talk about Firestone. Let's at least produce rubber gloves, condoms, very basic stuff. Doesn't require very sophisticated trained people, because that will take time for us to do. Or let's invest in tourism. Tourism, you create a lot of jobs, but they're service-oriented jobs. We can train people very quickly to provide service. I mentioned this 350 kilometers of beaches. There are other natural beauties here. So if we invest in ecotourism.
But in order to get to those beaches, you got to have roads, because that's one of the things that folks have said to me. It's difficult when the roads only go a certain distance. Now you're adding hours to be able to reach places where it should be really hour and a half, 2-3 hours.
You do, but you have to start somewhere. Right? You have to innovate around the fact that if you have bad roads. So I'm making this up as we go, but so maybe you get helicopters or something, and you can courier people from here to Hopper, to Maryland County, beautiful beaches. So we have to be creative and make do until we build a road infrastructure. So we can't wait until that happens before we start. So the point is, we gotta be creative, we gotta be innovative. We can't let the barriers stop us, right? We have to say, okay, the country doesn't have electricity, we don't have trained people, what do we do? And I believe there are solutions. That's why I mentioned ecotourism. When you add the word eco, people are not expecting 5-star infrastructure. They want to rough it up. They want to live in the huts. They want to get on the canoes. And we can offer that until we can build the infrastructure, the roads, etc., and we can take up the value chain of tourism, if you will. So my perspective, Roland, is that there are barriers, there are challenges, but we have to confront them. We have to find solutions around the barriers, and we can't let that stop us from the country moving forward.
When we talk about our responsibility, how we can use our positions, how did you use your position as a corporate leader at Coca-Cola to help Liberia?
So we did it in many ways, but what I first remind Liberians is that Coca-Cola is a private for-profit business, is a big multinational that focuses on creating shareholder value. In that process, there was a strong recognition that you have to invest in the communities and societies where we live and operate. And so the other reality is, in relative terms, Liberia is a very small market, is in the rounding in terms of what the corporation does. And you know how big. The market cap of Coca-Cola is almost $250 billion. The GDP of Liberia is around $2 billion. I mean, that's a different scale. But what we did, for example, when I worked for the corporation, we put a second production line. The market didn't really justify it, but we were anticipating growth. So we put a second production line, which helped to create jobs. We invested in Liberian entrepreneurs. So we created kiosks. We put coolers in place to help during the Ebola crisis. The company was very active in providing PPEs, in providing support to employees to make sure they were looked after and taken care of. So we disproportionately invested in Liberia relative to its size, relative to returns. And because I had the role I had, I could influence. Even though Liberia is a very small country, very small market, we did significantly more than we would have under normal circumstances, even versus bigger markets in the region. We did more because of my role. But we did that because we could, because we cared for the country. And again, I just remind people there was only so much you could do because, again, you had sort of rules and regulations in terms of how you invest and based on returns and that kind of stuff.
Well, the reason I asked that, you've got 1 million Liberians in the United States. And so what do you want to see Liberians in America do where they're working for companies, where they're working corporations to be able to help the country grow?
Right. So let me also add that there are Liberians also we helped get roles at Coca-Cola globally and other Africans, so not just Liberians. And I don't want to take any credit for it because they earned it. It wasn't because, they were just Liberians. I think that's an important distinction. But Liberians today in the diaspora do a lot to help the country. I think the number is something like $350, $400 million comes to our country every year from the diaspora.
What if you could make a song using only your voice? Let's start with the drums. I'm gonna hit drums and click cover.
So meaning folks who no longer live in Liberia, they're sending back 350, 400 million.
Yes.
So even though your government budget is 700 million, you're getting, people are sending half essentially of your budget.
Right. And so that is significant. I think in relative terms, compared to, I think, Mexico, for example, Philippines, large diaspora populations, on a per capita basis, on a per person basis, Liberians send a lot of money back home to help their friends and relatives. In fact, there's an opportunity to work with them to actually channel that giving, rather than just give to folks, maybe create an investment fund that can be used. We talk about value-added manufacturing. So we need to be creative about how we actually can channel those funds in a way that is more productive, and is that not only to pay the rent, to buy food. Those are important things. Liberians need that, right? But I think we can be smarter about how we channel those resources. So Liberians do help today, and it's important that we acknowledge and recognize that. But the diaspora, I have to say, also needs to get perhaps more engaged in offering solutions. I encourage diasporans to actually come home and help to implement some of the ideas they have. It's not good enough just to criticize, and they do a very good job of that, and maybe deservedly so, right? It helps when you make recommendations. That's kind of the next step in the value chain, if you will. Then we need someone to actually come and let's implement these great suggestions, right? And not just suggest it. But diasporans do a good job, I think, of trying to help the country, and we need to acknowledge that.
When we talked about that young population, I mean, obviously, young folks are not sitting around waiting. And so is there a fear that if you don't have services, if you don't have jobs, if you don't have skills, that you're going to have a brain drain? And so this is no different than young folks who are leaving rural America going into urban populations. People want to go where the jobs are, where there's a different lifestyle. And so how much of a concern is that brain drain?
It's a huge concern, but there's a bigger concern because this young population is both an opportunity and a threat. And it's actually, I think, it's a national security threat if we don't create the opportunities for these young people. The stability of the country over time could be at risk. Brain drain is clearly one of the risks, but the West, Roland, is fighting back, as you know, even the United States, pushing back on immigration. The same with the Europeans. So young people having the opportunity to leave and go to the West is becoming more and more difficult. And this is why we have to create opportunities here, because the West, they don't want us. I mean, let's be honest, right? And it's up to us, Liberians, Africans, to create opportunities for our young people. Otherwise, we have a national security risk if we don't take care of that young population. And my fear is we're not doing that. We're not doing enough to develop, to invest in our young people. We pay lip service to it, but we have to take more action, because over time, folks that's suffering, they're hungry, they don't have a future, they got nothing to lose. And it becomes a national security risk, in addition to the fact that if they can leave, they will leave.
One of the things I consistently have heard from folks, they talked about where this country was prior to the Civil War, prior to the coup. They talked about what it looked like. They talked about the development and how so much of that was destroyed in that 15-year war. Can you paint the picture? What was Liberia like pre-Civil War? Things that I've read, the reign of Tubman, in terms of what was brought in. What was this country like? Because what many historians have said is that Liberia was far ahead of many other African nations, even though they gained their freedom, and then all of that work was destroyed during those 15 years.
So that is correct. Liberia was, in relative terms, ahead of the other African countries. In fact, when I was based in Nigeria, I had a discussion with at the time, the Kenyan ambassador to Nigeria. And he said, Alex, in the Kenyan Foreign Service, everybody wanted to go to Europe and the US, that sort of stuff. If you had to have an assignment in Africa, you wanted to go to Liberia. I mean, so that explained where the country was relative to other African countries. In fact, a lot of multinationals.
I got one challenge for you. Try Whisper Flow one time, and I promise you'll understand why I haven't typed the full sentence in.
Who had expatriates in other African countries, when they took their leave, the short breaks, so you had home leave, you went back home, short breaks, they would come to Monrovia, to the beaches and that sort of stuff. So in relative terms, the country was developed. But I have to say, though, the country at the time, although relatively, didn't benefit everybody. And we have to acknowledge that. And that was part of the cause.
Who did it benefit?
It benefited a few of the elites. And that's why the war was precipitated, the civil unrest, because our country has always had a sort of a top-down model. A few people, the old sort of Republican model, you power a few people, a few rich people, and somehow the poor people will develop. That really hasn't happened. So Liberia was...
You mean the trickle-down theory?
The trickle-down theory. And Liberia has had this sort of trickle-down mentality and still does until today. And so even the government today, when we criticize them, they say, well, it was done that way in the past. Well, it hasn't worked. And they were elected to change the model. They were elected with this pro-poor attitude. And they're repeating the same philosophy. The same with our concession agreements, whether it's a Firestone or ArcelorMittal, the same constructs. And somehow the country hasn't developed. We need to change the model. We need to develop from the bottom up as opposed to the top down. It hasn't worked. And so Liberia was relatively developed. Liberia has a lot of firsts we should be proud of. The origins of what's now the African Union started in Liberia with what was called the Organization of African Unity in Senegal. Mm-hmm. One of the first head of the World Organization, Dr. Tukba, was Liberian. I believe, and you should check this for me, I believe the first African to graduate from Harvard was a Liberian. The reason why Liberian has this maritime loss of flight of convenience, I believe, again, Liberian lawyers were involved in writing the laws of the seas. So we've had a lot of firsts. The country was relatively developed, but it never has benefited the majority of Liberian people and still doesn't today. And this is what we have to change. We have to upend the system. And this is what we're saying to our Liberians, that we can't keep doing the same things and expect different results. Roland, we have to invert the system. Now, that's easier said than done, but we have to do it because Liberians are not, mature Liberians are not benefiting. I was in the western part of our country, a county called Cape Mount, an area called Gold Camp and King Joy, where there's a lot of gold. And literally, Roland, you see the trucks leaving with the gold, and there's no development today. Seriously, there's a part of Liberia called Wiswa. Used to be kind of the diamond capital. Almost all the diamond is gone. I promise you, there's nothing in Wiswa. And this is not about this government, but they're doing the same things, right? This is an inheritance from way before. We gotta upend it. We gotta change the model.
So gold's going out, diamonds going out, timber's going out, ore is going out, and the country, rubber's going out.
The country remains poor. That is just unacceptable. This is my passion, right? And for me, it's not, I'm aspiring to serve our country as president. The job is not the destination, it's a means to end. The destination is to change the country. That's what we need to do, to upend this thing, because it hasn't worked. And it's just a fact. You just say gold, even down, and it's a poor country.
On that point, when I interviewed the Ghanaian president in 2019, he said to me, he said, it makes no sense that the continent with the most resources is also the poorest.
Yeah, absolutely. And some of that is because the West wants it that way, they engineer it that way. You know, all of these multilateral institutions are designed that way. But we Africans have to take responsibility. We own these resources. We need to challenge the order. We need to change them out. And in many cases, we need to work together to do it, because doing it individually, we don't have leverage. So a good example is what Ghana and Ivory Coast have done. Between those two countries, Roland, they control something like 70% of cocoa production. They were addressing cocoa sort of separately. They've come together now, and it's benefited farmers. Prices have gone up because they have leverage when they combine. And so as Africans, individually, we need to exert some leverage, but if we work together, we can exert more leverage and again, upend the order, reverse the order. This is why ECOWAS, for example, is so important, Economic Community of West African States, because then you got scale in terms of the population. If you want to do manufacturing, because manufacturing is about scale, right? Economies of scale. This is why even the Mara River Union, which is Liberia, Sierra Leone, Guinea, the Ivory Coast, it provides a scale. And if we can collaborate, work together, it gives us more leverage in how we manage our resources. Iron ore in Liberia, iron ore in Guinea, right across the border, the Nima Mountains, right? We need to be collaborating more with the Guineans, right? To extract more value for our resources. So the Ghanaian president was right. We got all the resources, and yet our currencies are weaker than the currencies in the West. Why?
This is Navon Edge, the personal assistant for frequent business travelers. Navon Edge learns what you love down to the smallest details and finds your perfect flight, stay, or meal.
And again, I think the responsibility is ours. Yes, the West has engineered, but we can't blame them. We got to blame ourselves. We got to bring leverage to bear to change the model.
Right now, 7 of the 10 fastest growing economies in the world are African economies. One of the concerns that people have is, and I've heard this from numerous folks, and they've even asked me on my show, the question was asked, are the Chinese in Liberia? Because of the criticism of their investments in other African nations. And one of the things that they also been criticized on is not only are you investing, but importing their workers to do the work as opposed to training the very people who live there to do the work. So it's sort of the same thing, taking resources, but that money going to their own workers. How do you get international investment into Liberia? How do you get someone's attention to say, this is a value add for you to actually do this? Whether we're talking about major corporations or even smaller African-American owned corporations from the United States.
So let me first react to the point you made about the 7 fastest growing economies in Africa. That's a good thing. But Roland, we shouldn't get carried away with that statistics, because this is a relative comparison. These are relatively small economies. So the US only growing 1%. That 1% growth is probably, if you do the math, probably bigger than the entire 7 economies growing, because you know the math, the size, right? So yes, it's a good thing, and we should be proud of that. I just remind us we should be growing even faster, right? I mean, to catch up, because we're so far behind. But in terms of how we attract foreign investors to sort of add value, one is, this is where collaboration becomes important with other African countries, because you know, a small country like Liberia alone, you only have so much leverage. So I'll give you a real life example. If the terms we try to extract for iron ore is different from what the Guineans try to extract, they will go to Guinea, right? But if we work together with the Guineans, right, we can.
So basically what you're talking about is African nations should be doing what OPEC is doing.
Yes.
And that is, they're creating when OPEC gets together, they're controlling, they're setting the price of oil.
Right. Now, if you have a resource that sort of only you have, or very few countries have, you have more leverage, because they can't go to many other places, right? So but if you have a resource that they can get anywhere else, you're competing with, no leverage, right? Having said that, though, even in the current environment, we should be pushing more. We need different kinds of agreements for extracting our resources. And I believe, Roland, that we should simplify the agreements, because today, I'll give you a real life example. I was on the board of Chevron globally, Chevron Corporation. And Chevron has more engineers, geologists, lawyers than we'll have for the next 100 years, right? And so entering an agreement where we need those expertise to monitor the agreement, we're going to lose. And so we need to rethink the concession agreements so that it's simpler. We can control the resources that come. So if we take iron ore, for example, and again, I'm oversimplifying. It's not as simple as it is. I got you. We should say to Mattel, 10%, we'll do the math, whatever, 10% of whatever you produce, we want to sell on the open market. You can take the 90%, whatever the number is. We will sell on the open market, take the resources, and we Liberians will invest it, however we choose to do it, as opposed to trying to share in equity and monitor the stuff. So we need to just change how we think about all of these things, right? And require that they do local manufacturing, or we do it. So we take the funds. We say Liberians produce rubber today. We will create a factory. Liberians can invest in that factory. The government can invest in that factory. And we do gloves, we do condoms, all this basic rubber stuff for the local market, for the Mana River Union, for ECOWAS. Just new and different thinking. And this is what we have to bring to bear across the continent, but certainly we need to do that in Liberia.
I was having a conversation with one business leader, and she said, we import most of our fish. She says, as opposed to us having a strong fishing industry. She said, which means that we're actually paying for it to come in. And her argument was to really build a much more self-sustainable country versus being on the end where you're having to pay double or triple for things that are coming in. What can actually be homegrown and built?
Yeah, and that example applies to all of our commodities, and it happens to Africa generally, meaning we import iron ore, export iron ore, and we put finished steel. So we're losing. We got the seacoast.
So you provide the iron ore,
raw material, yeah.
You provide the iron ore, it goes out, and then you got to pay for it to come back.
Right, as steel, so you're paying more.
As opposed to saying, if you want our iron ore,
we do the steel here.
Right. Yeah, do the steel here, or you're gonna give us a huge break on the cost, right? If it comes back.
Yeah, something like that. Or the Ghanaians or the Ivorians, they export the cocoa, and then they buy chocolate. Value is added in Switzerland or wherever, Belgium, and they buy chocolate. Now the Ghanaians are producing chocolate locally, and that sort of stuff.
Well, the Ghanaian cocoa ain't no chocolate.
Right, exactly. and so this example happens, unfortunately, across the continent. This is why, again, we Africans, we gotta take control of this stuff, right? And so, going back to the point where Liberia used to be, there used to be a company called the Mesherado Group of Companies.
What?
Mesherado Group of Companies. Okay. It doesn't exist anymore. That used to have ships, trawlers, used to fish, Liberian company ship, freeze it, ship it to Europe. So kind of finished product, right?
Right.
Freeze it, package it, ship it to Asia, Japan, Europe, North America. And all of that went away with the war, all that sort of stuff. Today, the Chinese got boats on the coast apparently taking the...
We have a major heat wave developing, so listen up. ICYMI.
Now your summer forecast with Ariana.
The fish, the shrimp, and everything, lobsters are going out. And then we kind of buy the frozen stuff.
Like literally, like I've been here all week and we have not been able to eat shrimp anywhere.
Yeah.
And one person was like, I know it's some shrimp off the coast of Liberia. How the heck we don't have any shrimp here? Yeah. But if you're not catching it and producing it here and selling it here.
Yeah. And some of that is because the shrimp have different spawning seasons. So you should always have it year round, but you have more abundant when it's spawning from when they're not. But yes, shame on us. The beach is right here, right? At the coast. And 350 kilometers of beach. And we're not leveraging it, we're not using it. And the seafood is just leaving the country.
What role do you believe, I mean, first of all, African Americans have an extremely unique relationship with this country. It is one that a lot of people don't even know about, don't even really focus on. There's no other African nation that has the relationship in terms of being founded by people of African descent who came from America. Folks who came from Virginia, from Mississippi, from different
Carolina,
from different places. Now, obviously, you had issues with that as well in terms of treatment, in terms of essentially them being colonizers.
Yes.
And so you had that battle politically and economically as well. What role do you want to see African Americans play in terms of partnering or collaborating with Liberia?
We and I approach this from two perspectives, right? One, to your earlier question, are we fully leveraging the diaspora? And two, are we fully leveraging African Americans? And we're not. And somehow we are threatened by what they could bring. So there's a sort of a zero-sum game mentality that if we allowed it, even the diasporans to come, they will take our jobs, they will take stuff from those people who are here. We let African Americans come, we'll do this. And my point is, it's 2 + 2 is 5. We gotta change the model. You know, I describe it, Roland, that we got this pepper bush that we protected for, but there's no pepper in the pepper bush. So let's put pepper in the pepper bush, and then we can regulate it. We can protect it, right?
So like I use an analogy. You're questioning how much I'm gonna make, but right now you're making zero.
Right.
So if I come in and provide you with 100,000, and you're worried about how much I'm making, okay, right now you're getting zero.
Right.
So ain't nobody doing well.
Right.
The question is, how much can we make together?
Exactly. I mean, the other way I describe it, I'd rather have 50% of $10 than 100% of $1. So I'd rather have $5 than $1, right? I mean,
right.
But somehow our mental model, our motto is, no, I want my 100% at $1, right? As opposed to I'll take 50% of 10. And so what we have to do is we have to be more aggressive in educating African Americans about Liberia's history and that relationship, so that we can attract both the economic, financial resources, but also the intellectual resources of African Americans. We have to do the same with the diasporas. Even today, there's this kind of rift, diaspora Liberians and Liberians. We got to get rid of all of these divisions. We do it even on a tribal basis. You know, we separate ourselves, and all of these things have kept us behind, right? Look, Roland, you don't choose your tribe, right? You don't choose when you're born. You don't choose the religion you're born into. You don't choose your gender. Those things shouldn't give you any advantage or disadvantage over anybody else. But somehow we kind of use these things, the folks in power, they use that to protect. These are all the paradigms we have to break. And African Americans, diaspora Liberians who live in the United States can make a big difference in terms of financial resources, in terms of intellectual capacity, right? Now, they can't come with an arrogant attitude or colonial attitude, because that was part of the problem. So sometimes diasporans, they come here and they think they're holier than thou. That's not gonna work. You can't come and you may be better off because of circumstance, but you can't make me feel like, excuse me. Right. And sometimes that's the attitude people come with, and that's just not acceptable. But we can manage it. We have to be more secure in ourselves.
Right.
We have to recognize the benefit and value, and we have to aggressively go after it within the context of a strategy. What do we want to achieve with that? How can it help us? What sectors do we want to develop? And then how can it come and help us develop the sector? What is agriculture, education, tourism, infrastructure? We need to be clear about what we want to do, how we want to do it, and there are African Americans and Liberians in all of those sectors that will be willing to come because of the opportunities that the country provides.
Do you think, how does this bicentennial help? This 200 bicentennial celebration. That's, first of all, that's why I'm here, understanding the history. I'm looking at, obviously, the events here. One of the things that I have said to different ministers is you can have bicentennial celebrations here, but there should be bicentennial celebrations in those American states where folks came from, where you're creating the linkage. In those places where you have significant Liberian populations, in Houston, in Washington, D.C., in Philadelphia, things along those lines. So talk about this bicentennial celebration, and is it truly a nationwide celebration? What do you make of it?
I think we've under-leveraged the bicentennial opportunity significantly. It should have been a much bigger deal across the country. We should have organized it so that even more African Americans should have been made aware to come. I agree with you. We should have plans so that it's reciprocal. We're doing it in those cities where there are large Liberian communities, because that's how you create the awareness of the linkage between the United States and Liberia. So we've under-leveraged it. And then my other fear, Roland, is that there will be these opening events, and then there'll be nothing. There'll be no follow-up, no follow-through. I don't think they've thought through, so what's the next event? What happens in March? What happens in April? What happens, so
because Ghana really leveraged the year of return.
They did. They really leveraged the year of return. It brought significant financial benefits, a lot more tourists, people coming in, spending hard currency in Ghana. We have not thought about it on that scale. We are not leveraging. And this is the original land of the return.
Right.
Not Ghana, right? I think we've under-leveraged it. And again, is this what I call small mindset, right? Whether it's a threat, the fear, or the history of where we've come from as a country, but we've under-leveraged it. There's an opportunity. It's not too late, right? To take advantage of it.
You got a whole year.
You got a whole year, right? But I have not heard, maybe it's being worked on, I have not heard what the plans are to leverage it beyond these kind of opening events, which again, I think were relatively small and could have been much bigger scale than it was. So I think unless we take advantage of it, we're missing another opportunity, which is unfortunate.
You've had to, you're leading the opposition party here. You've been battling the legal system here as well. And so talk about, if you're going to talk about the celebration, and the president talked about unity in the ceremony at Doe Sports Complex, even with political parties battling, no different than the United States, the Democrats and Republicans, how do you work together to achieve that unity, to leverage the bicentennial and build Liberia together, even though you have opposing views?
Yeah, and this is why, Roland, in all of my criticism of the government, I always offer solutions, alternatives. I never just criticize. I may in a particular interview, but over time, I always offer alternative solutions in the hopes that they will take advantage and use it. They haven't, because at the end of the day, we all suffer or benefit. We're all Liberians. We all have to work together. And so we always offer, even through this conversation, we offer solutions, alternatives in terms of how we can move the country forward. The government is unfortunately using the judiciary to prosecute me. It's a persecution, it's not prosecution, right? And look, in the end, I think we'll prevail because the law is on our side. We did nothing wrong. But President Weah and his government should want to take the lead in seeing how we can collaborate despite our differences politically. That leadership needs to come from him. He's the president of the country. He's the leader of the country, right? And rather than doing that, they're trying to split the opposition, which politically, that's not a bad thing to do, right? But even more, they're trying to persecute me because I think we provide the biggest threat, the biggest contrast. Even my other colleagues in the opposition, Roland, we offer a different set of experiences. We offer a different vision that is radically different from anything anybody offers. I'm like saying we need to change everything, upend the system, not overnight, not all at once, because that's chaos, right? But that's the goal, is to change everything, right? And so I'm a major threat to the establishment, to the few thousands of people that benefit from Liberia and the spoils. and the trickle-down economics, right? And so what the government is, what I'm being charged with under Liberian law is a misdemeanor. Yet the chief prosecutor of Liberia, Solicitor General, is leading the prosecution. There have been significantly more serious charges of other individuals, criminal charges, never involved, never around. But a misdemeanor charge is leading it in the courts, in the court of public opinion, prosecutorial misconduct, which we'll call him out on, by the way. But it's okay. You know, we're fighting for the soul of Liberia. We're committed to our country. I've been incredibly blessed with different experiences, resources, strong intellect, and I'm going to do everything we can to try to change this country. And we'll take the bullets, we'll take the hits, because it's about Liberia.
And then that was my follow-up, which is really last question. Look, you're a high-ranking official at Coca-Cola. You were well compensated. You could very easily be using this time to serve on corporate boards, travel the world, relax, do other things, write memoirs, teach, or whatever. Why do this? Why, when that very well could be a much easier life?
Yeah. Every now and then I wonder why as well, but that's only 30 seconds because...
Did your wife want the same thing like, how's what you doing?
Right, so I, every now and then for 30 seconds and then maybe she for 60 seconds. But I'm very committed to this country, Roland. I view everything you've described as I've been blessed, and I use that word deliberately, right? And I don't think I was blessed to kind of go lay on the beach and play golf and be on boards. I could be making more money.
I play golf. I love golf, let's just be clear.
My wife plays golf. Teresa's very good at it.
There you go. All right, so I'll bring my golf clubs next time and see how I play.
Absolutely. I really think I was blessed to, with these experiences, to help the country of my birth, to help Liberia, right? And I'm passionate about it. I believe we can change this country. Liberians are smart people, Roland. I'm not just saying it, I'm biased, but we are. We're industrious, we're resilient. And if we work together, if we think about leadership as most servant leadership, we can change this country. And I'm committed to that. There will be time for the relaxation, to play golf and do this stuff. But for now, is how we can get Liberia back on track. And I use the word we, not I, right? It will take us collectively as a people, right? A few hundred leaders committed to doing this, not just in government, in the church, in the mosque, in civil society, in the private sector. We get a few hundred Liberians who are committed, we can change this country. And I want to be a part of that transformation. And God willing, I want to lead that transformation and to serve the Liberian people so we can achieve what I believe this country has the capacity to achieve. We have the resources, we have to manage it well, and then we will no longer be a rich country and poor people. We'll be a rich country and rich people, and I think that can be achieved. But the obstacles are huge because human nature, the folks, the men and women today that benefit from the system that is, they are fighting, and they are going to fight, but we're going to fight back.
All right, Alex Cummings, I appreciate it.
Roland, thanks
you.
a lot. I appreciate it. Great questions. I appreciate it.
LIB, stand up! Take me back to Liberia, where the drums still play my song. Take me back to my homeland. It's the place where I belong.
LIB Future TV giving voice to progressive Liberians, speaking about politics, entertainment, and local news.
Everybody's talking about a maker, Alexander, everybody's talking about a maker, Alexander. The year is me checking you again, guys. From the shore of the gorilla to the pit of the India, and we coming from the episode to the shores of the shepherd. Young guy, you are the woman, you are from my way, my put you to the peak of water kissing. Sit for. Come here, we come in. Everybody's talking about a maker, Alexander. Everybody's talking about a maker, Alexander. The year is me checking you again, guys. LIB, stand up.
Take me back to Liberia, where the drums still play my song. Take me back to my homeland. It's the place where I belong.
LIB Future TV, giving voice to progressive Liberians, speaking about politics, entertainment, and local news.